We believe the purpose of owning a business is funding your perfect life. Welcome to the next generation of growth and opportunity in the inspection industry. This is the Empire State of Mind. Empire State of Mind. Helping build companies with faster growth, higher profits, and more time freedom. Finally, a podcast for the home inspection industry and beyond. This is the Empire State of Mind. And this is your host, Matt Williams.
Well, welcome to the show. It is a beautiful day. Spring is upon us. It is getting warmer and warmer, which means I think that our inspection businesses will start to be picking up soon, which is super exciting. But I also want to talk about some amazing things that have been happening inside of the IEB community. The Unite conference is coming up at the end of May. And actually, I just heard that we have, we think so far, the largest home inspection conference of the year is the IEB based on registration numbers that we have so far. So you don't want to miss it. We have fantastic speakers. It's at a fantastic venue. It's beautiful. And so you want to join us, you can go to iebcoaching.com, click on events, and you don't have to be an IEB member to come to this event. In fact, if you are not an IEB member, we really want you at this event so that you can get a feel for what this community brings. But today on the show, I have someone I've been hoping to get on the show for a while, and I'm so excited to have Harmony Brown on the show today. Harmony, how are you doing?
Oh, hey, Matt, great to be here. I'm doing really good. How about yourself?
I'm doing pretty good. Yeah, life is good. And yeah, so Harmony, I know your story a little bit. I've heard bits and pieces of it. And so some of our audience members wouldn't have heard your story. And so I think I heard your story about 2 years ago was the first time I heard your story about how you started an inspection company. Before we get into the start of that, I want to ask you this. I know your company has grown significantly over the last few years. How many inspectors do you have right now on the home inspection side?
Oh, gosh, 52, 53 right now.
Got it. Okay. And then you guys also provide other services, right?
We do, yes. We got engineering services, environmental testing and consulting, and then pest control.
That's fantastic. So you have quite the empire that you built. Where did that start?
Well, truly, it started with me kind of recognizing purely through accident that I could get into inspections. I was doing some research, trying to find my passion. I'm a fifth-year non-graduated college student seeking to find a place to really set down roots and grow and explore an opportunity. And, inspections is not something that you hear about in school. It's just not. So fortunately, I was kind of looking for a way to find a passion, something that I could do for the rest of my life, even if I couldn't be paid for it. That's how I define passion, right? What would you do if there was no money, if you could be taken care of, right? But essentially, you got to find a love. And I started looking online, found a great ebook. The ebook led me through, here's how to find your passion. You explore your interests, and those interests led me into houses, come to find out. I was really obsessed with homes. I still am to this day. I watch more HGTV than I would ever want to admit to anyone.
The 30-minute remodel.
That's right. They've gotten it down to 5 minutes now. I swear.
It's unbelievable. Yeah, it is. Those shows are great, aren't they? And I wish my own home projects would go like that, but mine take months and theirs takes 30 minutes. So.
It's so true. It's so true. And so, so it just led me there, and I literally explored realtor, mortgage, appraisal, and for whatever reason, all of those didn't check the box for me. But then when I got to inspections, it really became clear and evident that, hey, these are inspectors and this is their day. And it turns out they don't like their day, right? They didn't like this going out and having to go do the networking and the realtor and the lead conversion, right? That wasn't the fun part. of the few inspectors that I had talked to, and they were sole man operators, and they just admitted it and shared it with me. And I said, that sounds very interesting. What if I could get you work? And they said, of course, you can bring me work all day long. And sure enough, it was like a light bulb to me that could be my way. That could be the thing that would marry my love and interest in homes, but actually create value to the inspector.
Yeah, for sure. Right. Like the skill set between an inspector, typically a good inspector is not going to be somebody who's good at like networking and doing all those like social events. The personality profile is typically not found together in those two things. So yeah, you're right. If you can marry what you're talking about, you got these inspectors that are really good at inspecting, and you've got the networking side. Yeah, you're solving a problem for them.
That's it. Yeah. So that's how we began. Just solve the problem, and I sought out to do it. Super tough. So it sounded great in my mind, right? But it was incredibly difficult. To this day, I applaud all of us who have been able to get through those first couple years, because they are tough and they're grueling.
Yeah.
15 months of no clients, and I'm working at it every single day, but finally got over the hump. Got my first client and really studied and learned and tried to understand how this can all fit together. Got some traction after 2 years, one by one.
2 years. That's a long time.
It is.
How long ago was that? When did you start?
Yeah. So, I started this in, it was November of 2009.
Okay.
Went 15 months before I got my first customer. And then I went another 4 months until I got my second customer. So
you started like in the belly of the housing crisis. I mean, I'm not a strategist or anything, but it seems like that may not be the best timing.
It was not. It was absolutely not.
That is so funny. So it took you 2 years to get your first customer and another 4 months to get your second one, you said?
Mm-hmm.
Is that right?
That's right.
Okay. And so then how long before it started to actually like produce any like significant results where it was like, oh, this might actually be working? Because up until then, I'm sure there's a lot of questions, right? Like, is this going to work or not?
It was absolutely miserable. I was absolutely, destroyed inside, right? It's like, why can't I make this happen? But perseverance is a really good teacher. And the lessons that you're learning the whole time that you're trying and you're not giving up, and you're right. And you're actually getting some grit about you,
Mm-hmm.
and I think that once that second customer came in, I had learned how to come out to a home, and I was sharing my story. I was telling, the client, hey, here's what I'm trying to do. Here's where I'm struggling. Here's where I feel like I could be very strong. Here's what my commitment to you would be. You just paid me $199, but I'm telling you right now, here's my cell phone. Here's my email. You call me at 3 a.m, you need something, I'm going to answer my phone. Now I'm admitting to you right now, I'll be asleep, but you call me anyway, and I will wake up and I'll take care of you. And when you approach people in that way, right? And I would build this trust with these realtors and saying, I'm not succeeding, but I want to be successful, but I want to be of service to you first. And I believe that my success will come only through my ability to serve. And so can I get a shot? And turns out, it doesn't take that many people to say yes. If you deliver, right?
Yep.
It's all about the delivery. And luckily we did.
That's incredible. So were you working another job while you were trying to get this thing off the ground?
I was going around.
How do you do that for 2 years? Like, that's just like, it took me 2 years to get my company off the ground, but I was sleeping and working, and the first 2 years were, but I had a lot of work to do. So like my company was busy. I mean, I had a lot of inspections. So like it took off. It's successful in a way, but those first 2 years I had different problems, and I think every startup phase has problems and or challenges you have to overcome and lessons you got to learn. And fortunately for me, my lessons weren't how do I get work. It was like, how do you manage the fast growth? But that was another set of problems, another set of challenges. Yeah. And that can be, and if you're not careful in the middle of even that, you can bankrupt your company and screw up.
Absolutely.
Because there's a lot of cash coming and going. And if you make a misstep in there, you don't have enough money to make the steps you need, or you overstepped or whatever. But yeah, so you were working another company, working another job while you're trying to start this thing up. And so you're doing this, what, evenings and weekends, or did you have a job that allowed you the freedom to do this during the day?
So what's going on is like I'm actually going out on the weekends
Mm-hmm.
and getting books and I'm selling them on eBay and Amazon. So I'm one of those book resellers that people,
Like
back
at
then
yard sales?
yeah, literally. I go
Like
into
Gary Vee. Yeah.
I go in the wealthiest neighborhoods, wealthiest zip codes in Dallas and go, buy their books, for nothing. Sometimes they just give them to me, it's so awesome. And then I
Yeah.
turn around and I go sell them. And that's how I was surviving. And I was living on
Wow.
nothing. I wasn't making good money at that, but it was just enough, right? To get me
Wow.
by and keep me going.
That the perseverance is really, really incredible. That you would have that and be able to stay focused too, right? Like, because in the middle of all that 2 years of discouragement, trying to fight through and fight through and fight through, and you had a vision and you had a dream for your life, but how do you stay focused? Like, that's something that, like, a lot of people struggle with, but how do you stay focused on what you need to be focused on?
Yeah, truly, there has to be a good enough why. That's the only thing I can think of that will allow someone to truly stay focused through those sort of difficulties. And the why, while it can be outside of ourselves, of course,
Yeah.
like you have fantastic, parents out there, they need to take care of their children, you got to have a roof over their heads and paper, all the things that they need. Those are great whys, and that's a lot of people's whys. But at the same time, there also has to be some internal drive and a
Mm-hmm.
fire and
Yeah.
something that gives that passion to say, this is something I feel like I was called to do. And even though the results aren't showing, I do feel like for me, it was a part of my purpose. It was a part of
Wow.
my desire to live each day. Truly, like I had adopted the idea that it's a cellular level for me. And
Wow.
there's nothing else that I want to do on earth. And that's what it took. It took a complete blind turn away from all other things. And
Mm-hmm.
I had to focus so deeply and so intently in creating skills that I didn't have. And no one was less skilled than me. I don't know how to tell people this. Like I was shy, I was timid, I had no money, I didn't know how to talk to people. Everything that you could not have to be the right person for it was me. But
Wow.
I just decided that I had to change who I was. And the transformation was hard. And that's what I think was taking so long.
So you had to you said, I'm going to change. I'm not going to summarize this right, but you had to change who you were to be able to realize the dream that you had, basically, is what you're saying.
That's right.
Wow. So the 2 years of struggle was you changing you.
That's it. I was the problem, Matt. Like it was me.
Wow.
It wasn't ever outside of me. And that acceptance it's a tough thing to accept, right? I want
Wow.
to blame
Yeah.
everything else.
Well, yeah, like they're not like, yeah. Oh man. Every time I hear people complaining about stuff, right? And it's like, man, how often do I complain about something? And the problem is it's really me, but I'm like, but I don't want to own that. So I'm like, I'm going to blame those realtors. I'm going to blame those buyers. I'm going to blame the market. I'm going to blame oof, man, that's deep right there.
Yeah.
That's really deep, man. So how do you do it now, right? So in the beginning, it was like this cellular level focus of like, this is what I want to do.
Mm-hmm.
As your business has grown over the last 12 years, right? 12 years? Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow, 12 years.
Mm-hmm.
And it's grown to be a pretty big organization at this point.
Mm-hmm.
How do you stay focused?
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Staying focused. I'm not going to lie to you. I've gone through ebbs and flows, I've hit burnout. I have hit just back-breaking work to the point where it just was unfeasible to keep going at the pace that I was going at. I've lost myself in it many times, and I just have to come back. And I say at this point now, I'm in a really healthy place today. Luckily, now last year I was completely burnt out, and I checked out, and I went. I get handed over to my leaders and said, "You guys do whatever you want." I can't anymore.
Wow.
And that happens, but right now I've had to, kind of come back into it and had to really refine my passion and my fire and my drive for what I do. And I feel like it's there again, but I will admit understanding what fuels and what brings out the best in me is the hardest part. And at this stage of where I'm at, Matt, it's about developing others to live their best life inside of my world, right? In this world that
Yeah.
we've created.
Yeah.
How do I help you create the life that you want inside of Greenworks? And that's what drives me. Nothing else matters to me, truly. The rest of it is, the numbers here and the, start up a new branch here. That's all nice, but I don't really care about it. What I really just care about is knowing that is there a better opportunity inside, right, of
Yeah.
Greenworks. And no, it's not going to be overnight. And no, it's not going to be easy. And I'm very open and honest with, anyone on my team who wants to do something great. I'll tell them greatness. I don't know why you choose this, because greatness is actually really, really hard.
It's really hard. Yeah.
It's very hard. But if you want this choice and you want to go down this path, and, let's talk about what you're willing to give up. And let's just cut to the chase. I love
Wow.
talking about sacrifice because it's the most unsexy conversation in the world. But yet it's the only thing that you can actually look at all of these people who have come before us who have been really successful in inspections. If you go, look at the history of inspections, they've all made some sacrifice at some point to get to what they were going after. And it doesn't matter what that is. There's a lot of very successful inspection companies out there that are paying for the retirement of their owners who built those businesses, and they run small operations, small teams, very profitable, and they're killing it, right? And they put out a superb service. I mean, truly, some of my best competitors in my markets they just do a phenomenal job, and they do it so consistently, that you're going, whoa. And the owner's like, oh yeah, I, take a couple meetings a month or whatever, and they're living the life that they want.
Wow. So what are you willing to sacrifice to get to greatness? That is incredible. Because it's true. It's a sacrifice. Tell me this, what do you think was the hardest sacrifice for you when you were getting started?
Unquestionably, I think the sacrifice is that I put my work before everything.
Okay.
I just did. And I think that it's taken me a while to learn what hobbies look like, right?
What do you do for fun? Yeah, what do you do for fun now, though? Would you have hobbies now?
Oh, gosh. Yeah. I play tennis. Nice. I play pickleball. I love hiking. Hiking. And gosh, I love walks. Just a casual stroll.
Uh-huh.
That's what I do.
That's awesome. And so are you able to have time now for that?
Oh, yeah.
That's good.
I prioritize it now.
That's awesome. Yeah. I think in the beginning it's hard. But right. That's a sacrifice. What do you do for fun? Right. There is no fun. There's no fun for the beginning. Right.
Not for me.
Yeah. Right. Well, I don't think for anybody, like when you're starting off a company, it's, there is no fun, right? You have to put everything. What do you sacrifice? You sacrifice your hobbies, you sacrifice your fun, you sacrifice the entertainment. I don't know. I feel like people have to, what are you willing to sacrifice? And, some people have sacrificed a lot. I know your story, that you were living barely making ends meet for 2 years because of the dream that you had. And are you willing to do that? Are people willing to do that? A lot of people aren't. That's where they I really want this greatness, but I'm not willing to live in my car, or not willing to live on a friend's couch while I'm trying to make this happen, or whatever that looks like, and what is that? What is that? That sacrifice is huge. And that's typically the obstacle people have, is they want to have their cake and eat it, and they want everything, and they can't do it. So that's tough. That's a tough one. You hit that right on the nose with that sacrifice thing. What are you willing to sacrifice? Because that's where you're going to quit, right? That's where the line is. So that's incredible. So you're zooming in and focusing, and you're working on trying to stay focused, and you have motivation, you have your why, right? And everybody's got to find their own why, and it's what is your why exactly? Do you have it really clear, crystal clear, or is it just helping people?
Yeah, no, helping people is a little too vague for me.
Mm-hmm.
My crystal clear why is I want to build a term that I've started using recently with my team, and I started sharing it as entrepreneurship.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Um, I'm super. I have two big things. So number one, on one hand, I want to see the inspector kind of rise as being the authority on the home. So, because I
Yeah.
feel like we're being pulled in almost two different directions as an industry. I feel like on one hand we're being pulled into commoditization,
Mm-hmm.
and then on the other hand, there's the other side that's saying no, we're going to go the complete opposite direction. The inspector is the authority, and all things home should go through the inspector. So realtors are at the top right now. We know this. And
Yep.
I'd say mortgage, really honestly, right up there next to them because they've really done a good job. If we look at the history of the mortgage industry, they've done an excellent job of putting themselves as a really close second,
Uh-huh.
right? If not even first sometimes, depending, right?
Yeah.
Um, but if we could think of it this way, for me, it's okay, who's next? And what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to take the inspector and elevate them into the third position where you think about your realtor, your mortgage lender, your inspector, because you don't
Yeah.
need anyone else. If you can, if we can be the absolute solution, if we're the
Mm-hmm.
authority, right?
Yeah.
We'll take care of all the rest of it. Like we'll take you down the path of all the other pieces of this real estate transaction that you need.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Yeah. That makes sense. Right. Yeah. So because the realtor, they understand the legal side and the transaction side and the paperwork side of things. And so the realtor actually guides the home buyer through that side of it, right? Like the contracts of actually getting the house done. They got them through that. But yeah, like why can't we be the voice that's guiding people through the actual physical product of the home?
that's it.
Because most realtors don't understand the technical aspects of what it takes to build and maintain a home and take care of those systems. And they don't know, and they don't need to know. That's not really their lane. But yeah, can we be that voice? Can we be that presence? That's really good. I like that.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
That's really good. Yeah. So that's your why. That's really good. I like that. That's really good. Yeah.
That's it.
So you're growing. When like you're bigger than most inspection companies out there. I don't know how that, if there is like any sort of national ranking, but you're probably in the top 10 of biggest companies that I know of. And so, there maybe, I don't know, maybe there's some I don't know. So you've got something pretty large. So I got to ask you this, like, when's enough enough? Like, right? Or
Right.
is there a point where enough is enough? Or like, I don't know, right? Like when do you say, okay, I've won?
I think it's very driven on what is the, kind of full vision that
Mm-hmm.
what we've created. Like, what do we want to do? Um, for me to realize the vision of the inspector being the authority on the home and really making the inspector the star,
Yeah.
and to succeed at building entrepreneurship inside of Greenworks, it would take us being in a minimum of 5 to 10 states. I know
Okay.
this. Um, and it probably need more than that. And we would need to be close to the $100 million mark,
Okay.
which we are nowhere near, right? So
Right.
we're, so it would be this major organization, but
Mm-hmm.
it would be it wouldn't be just I mean, remember, Matt, I've got to bring in all these other team members, right? And they're going
Yeah.
to be co-entrepreneurs with me, right? I got to bring all these other entrepreneurs in this with me and build
Uh-huh.
it out. So it's no longer me. It's almost like I'm just there to facilitate resources, right? And
Yeah.
help lead flow into all the other parts of the business. It'll have to be pretty big, truthfully, to realize what we're trying to do. To
That's
answer
pretty
that.
amazing. I love that. Yeah. So that's something that like we talked about just briefly before we started even was like how do you know what success is and how do you define that? You know? I don't know. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think defining it is really almost this. For me, it's imagery, right? It's like if I have a picture of having all of these companies and all of these companies doing different services in different parts of the country, led by different members of our team, most of which are going to be inspector led. So in my world, 80% of every business that we ever create has an inspector who started it, because that's just what I want to build, right? That's not right
Yeah.
for everybody else. That's just what I want. And I
Yeah.
want to attract the entrepreneurial inspector who wants to go start a tree trimming business, right? You name it.
Yeah.
There's
Yeah.
really no wrong answer. And we master how to bring all of these pieces together, and it's going to take us many years to do this, but it's okay. We're willing to put in the time, right?
Yeah.
To slowly pursue it and help it get to where it wants to be. And I think that is the thing that is the driver of the folks that are, in our world. And I think while it lacks clarity for like specific definition, like, oh, it's exactly 56 businesses and it's exactly in this many cities,
Right.
it's not, we don't have that. I wish we did.
Okay.
But we do have the idea and the dream that if you come into our world, the ceilings are removed and you can truly build anything that you want to build, as long as, again, go back to sacrifice, right? What are you willing to sacrifice?
Right.
What are you willing to give up?
Yeah. 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 So that's an interesting, like, for success, right? Some people say they have really hard numbers. Like, this is the number I want of whatever. It might be number of inspectors, it might be revenue, it might be cities that we're in, or it might be, as simple as, I just don't want to be on the truck anymore. Or it might be, a one man operator who is saying, okay, well, like my idea of success is to do at least 7 inspections a week. Or, I mean, like, a lot of people will have like a goal that they'll set in front of themselves to try to get to it. But yours isn't that hard a number. It's almost as if, like, your goal is, I don't know, like it's basically maximizing the talent that you have on your team, maybe, or like the whole entrepreneurship idea. You spoke about that a couple of years ago at Unite, and I was really inspired by that. In fact, I have my first entrepreneurship project going right now.
Awesome.
Because 2 years ago you talked about this, and I was like, I love that idea. And at the time, we were tiny, we were just getting started, feet off the ground. And so now it's like, man, we have our first entrepreneurship project. So one of my inspectors is now we're starting another business right now together.
Oh,
And
awesome, man.
I know, right? It's pretty cool it's really cool to see that. And so you're doing that in, like, across your entire company. That's really incredible. Yeah. That's one of my goals, is to maximize the talent that, like, help remove the ceilings and help people achieve their maximum talent potential inside of our umbrella. I mean, that's like you said, inside of your world, like, that's a really good way to put it. But, like, if our umbrella is too small, if our world is too small, people will outgrow it.
Right.
And people will leave because they've reached the ceiling inside of your world, and they know that they have more talent in them. So then they're going to go somewhere else and they can do something else. But what you're talking about doing, is removing that ceiling for them and saying, listen, I will grow and be like, like, the amount of contacts and connections that you have inside of your market, the dollars, the resource, the wisdom of building companies and the business side of it. Like, you bring a lot to the table to partner up with people, especially inside of your organization. They already trust you. They already know you. I mean, that's an incredible thing to do with your company.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And it's terrible. I think part of what fueled my passion was seeing how many inspectors fail, when they try to start this business out. I mean, we know the numbers are staggeringly high of how many inspectors that actually went to school, actually passed the test, and then really never getting to do home inspections.
Right. Yeah. They don't, because they're good at inspecting the house, but they don't understand how to do the marketing and the sales. And I mean, I figured out that, and it's, my numbers might be different than yours, but I figured out that there was 12 things that had to happen in my company for it to operate. And one of them was actually inspecting houses and writing reports. Like, and the other 11 things are other things. So you have, you know what I mean? Like, you have bookkeeping, you have sales calls, you have all these different things. It just adds up and adds up. And it's like, wow, if you have one person trying to do all 12 things, like they're going to be spread thin. And that's why these guys fail, I think, on the front side, is that they have skill sets and part of it, but not all of it. And
Right.
yeah, well, in fact, how many houses have you inspected personally?
Zero.
0 houses, right?
Yeah.
Which means your skills on inspection, you don't need those. You bring the other skills to the table. You help make the other 11 things happen. That's what happens. And I think so. Like technicians will come out of school and they're ready to go inspect houses, but they don't understand the sales machine and taking care of taxes and all the other stuff that has to happen along the way. And that's interesting. You can build that. I do that in my company too. So I've got it now where I have operations people handling the operation side of things. We have growth activities happening, and we divide it up, and everybody has their lane. And if everybody does their lane really well, then the organization as a whole thrives. So then we all have jobs, and yeah, I own the company, but the company, I almost look at it like it's another human, and like I have to nurture and care for this because, at this point I have 11 employees. So I have 11 families that are requiring on this organization, mine included, that need this organization to thrive so that we can put food on the table, so that we can provide for our families. And so there's almost like a stewardship thing of like, I'm caring for this organization, and this organization is then caring for all these people, including myself. And so then, yeah, it's like, I don't know, like I see how, I'm not sure how we got to that part, but I kind of drifted over there. But yeah, like it's one of those, it is one of those things, right? There's how do you define success? And your success is like, for you, I can hear it in your way you're talking, even about like maximizing these people that are working in your world. I think that's really cool. I think the temptation is to look to our left and our right for success metrics, right? Like instead of looking within.
Yes.
And yeah, like I do that. I go, oh, wow. Like I can look around my market and go like, well, I'm bigger than all these guys over here, but I can also look on this side and be like, well, I'm not as big as those guys over there. And it's like, if I'm looking for my success to be what they're doing or they're doing, like I'll never find it. I'll never find success. I'll never find happiness. I'll never find joy, because I'm trying to be one of them or not them, but more like this. And you find yourself looking to the right and the left. And at the end of the day, you're chasing somebody else's dream, and you're chasing somebody else's why and somebody else's vision. And you can't just copy and paste what everybody does and just put it right into your system. Like you got to figure out what fires me up. Right. And so, exactly right. Yeah. So I think
it's got to be authentic. It's got to be authentic. It has to be. Matt.
Yes.
Because they'll buy into you, right? You're trying to attract the right people into your world. Like you only want the inspectors that fall within the model in the world that you all are creating, right? Because that's what's going to help you fulfill your vision. And then that alignment together, right? You guys go out and you serve your community in the way that you all desire to do that. And that's the beautiful part of it. And the money follows. It always does.
Oh yeah, always follows. Yeah.
But you don't start with that. You start with that vision of who you're creating, and then and then when you're interviewing people and you're meeting people, you start having these kind of serendipitous moments of like, oh my word, I can't believe that you think like this, and I think that way too. Okay, let's go talk more, right? And even your friends, your conversations, everything starts propelling you forward, right? And your business forward. And all of a sudden, the operations manager was just out, listening to live music one night, ran into such and such, and now all of a sudden you land a large client. All of that starts happening. It just falls into place.
It does. Yeah, it totally starts connecting. And finding that alignment like you're talking about, I think that's why it's so important to make your vision clear and your mission clear, your values and your culture clear, and to be able to like really focus on that, because then you start to attract the people that you want, and you will repel the people that shouldn't be part of it.
That's it.
And then all of a sudden you become magnetic and for attracting the kind of people that you want to attract. And the people that aren't into that, like if they're not walking with you, like you don't want them with you. That's right. Like like they got to be able to support like the vision. Like we have the vision of our company, and we're all in the right. Because if you have somebody that doesn't support it, then they have a different vision. So then that means you have two visions. That's division. You have division in your company. And if you have division in your company, then in your organization, then all kinds of cultural heartache starts to happen inside of the organization. And then you have all this tension inside, and then all your energy is going to the right. Like my energy gets sucked into the inside of my company rather than putting my energy to the outside of the company and starting to like be able to bring clients in and start to work on that, because I'm fighting on the inside with everybody.
That's right.
Yeah. So if you have division inside your organization, then like, I mean, you got to clear that up real quick. And that might be getting people into alignment, or if they won't get into alignment, then get off your bus, exit them from the organization, not because they're a bad person, but they just have a different vision to where you're going. And as long as they stay with you, they're going to be frustrated. You're going to be frustrated.
Right.
Like, let's help them find their vision and get them plugged in where they need to be. And if you can't help them plug them in, then like at least cut them off of yours. And it's the right thing for both parties, you know, whether they understand that or not. But yeah, you end up with a lot of tension internally, man. It's tough. You got to find people that are in alignment. That is so good. I love how you brought that up. And how do you find new talent? What's your like number one way to find new talent for your organization?
Oh gosh. It does depend because it does change. I will say, like so we love to have our people inviting in friends, family, posting their own, you know, like, hey, we're hiring. So like if I'm hiring for a CSR position, you know, I would much rather get their friends. That just works really well for us. I don't know why, but it's a killer way for us to recruit, and we love it. Same thing for inspectors, same thing for engineers, you know. So that works great. That's our top want of how we get someone. Next to that, we have to go into, you know, the Indeed and LinkedIn, you know, and really try to, as best as we can, share what we're looking for, you know, and tell just little bit about our vision, right? And kind of start weeding through there. But those are our say top two.
Yeah, I would say that's my top is the referral based, with people inside of our organization or people that we know. Because if someone's going to refer somebody, they're like putting their own street cred on the line with you, you know, and if they're willing to risk they're not going to recommend their deadbeat friend, you know, who can't hold a job, because that looks poorly on them as like person that referred them. And so that's always nice that they'll only refer their people that they know would be a good fit in the organization, because that's where they work. They don't want their workplace to be crappy, right? Like they want their workplace to be good, and they're not going to refer anybody that wouldn't do that already. And so, yeah, the referrals are the best way. I tell you, I've never listed an ad anywhere for employees. They all just come to me through referrals. So in the very beginning, I just told everybody I know, I was like, I need to hire people. I need somebody, you know, with this, as I was out inspecting, and pretty soon I got a whole bunch of people coming in and like them got magnetic with like people referring people. And then it just kind of grew and grew and grew. And now, you know, like whenever I need anything, it's like, hey guys, we got to hire this position. What do you guys think? Do you know anybody? And like all of a sudden we start getting referrals in, and that's the best. I'm telling you, it's the best.
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And what I love about new talent, like I love how new talent brings like fresh perspective into the company, like fresh life, fresh blood. I don't know about you, but sometimes it exposes my gaps, right? Like, because I realized we just brought on somebody new last week, and I was really busy. I had a lot of appointments and I was traveling, and I realized like I didn't set up one of the credentials properly, but I was so busy I didn't have a chance to like fix it, right? And because my company's big enough, it's not big enough for me to like have somebody does that, you know, it's me. So, but I realized like there's a huge gap. Like I wasn't prepared in my onboarding process. And so I don't know, like it's frustrating for me. I'm like, oh man, I'm not living up, but they also bring fresh perspective in a good way too.
Yes.
Yeah, I like that. The fresh perspective side. Do you experience that much?
Oh my gosh, all the time, the time. I mean, it's a part of our interviewing. You know, interviewing takes up a lot of time and a lot of bandwidth. And so we've tried to be intentional about making sure that there's something we're almost gaining from interviews. And that may sound selfish to some, but we don't mind. We're very open and upfront about that. Like we are trying to tap into the fresh perspective of even the people who will never work a single day at Greenworks. So that means that we're asking questions of what do you see? Here's a problem we're facing. And we'll literally, here's a real problem in our world right now. How would you solve this? Or what's your perspective of this?
Wow.
I cannot tell you how many genius things have come from the people who never worked here because they can see it from an outside perspective. And we love it because number one, I get to see how do you think?
Yep.
Right? How do you think about problems? You know, you're going to have problems. Show me any inspection company that doesn't have problems. I'm sorry, they're non-existent. We all have problems, right? So you're trying to get people who are nimble enough, flexible enough, pivot ready enough, right? Who can kind of roll with you in that. And we have seasonality to our business too, which already creates its own set of problems. So when we ask these questions, we can steer it right towards, this is the kind of environment that it is. And what do you see here? And I'm telling you, it's so fun. It is so fun. Because sometimes you hear really bad ideas. You're like, oh my word, okay, that's terrible. But that's okay. Right? Were they thinking the right way about it? Or did they come off, so you're doing that. But then other times, oh my gosh, just incredible things.
I love that. Like that's such a cool tool. So I was going to ask you about that. So talent acquisition is probably one of the trickiest things to do in any business. Is like, how do you find the right people to come on board and be part of the team? And so with IEB, we use the system RSTMM, which is we have acronyms for everything, but it's part of that recruiting, selecting, training, motivating, and all that stuff is kind of going through. Do you have a filtration system that you use for how do you filter, how do you interview? Like, what are the things that you use as like checkpoints in your interview process?
Yeah, so we've kind of built our own, to be honest. Like, so we go through like personality assessments, all that. Then we go through technical answer questions portion of it. Then if they get through all that, we'll do a phone interview process, which is really just kind of a get to know and kind of understand, like, what is this person looking for? What are their expectations in a job? Can we be a fit for them? Are they a fit for us? If that all goes well and they get through those couple tests in the beginning in the phone interview, then we spend a day in the field together. So say we're hiring for a home sector or even in the office, right? So you spend a day with us on phones. You spend a day with us to just kind of see, and we'll intentionally pick busy, chaotic days, right? We're not going to, it's not going to be a Friday afternoon. Like it's always try to be like a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. And we'll try to, show as much of what it looks like, as we can in that role. And then if that all goes well and it's like, okay, listen, they think that they can be a fit and we're, what would you do here? Describe this situation. What do you see? All those kinds of questions that are really trying to put them in the experience. We're very experience oriented. Because we think if we can create as much of what it is, I think so much of what we did wrong at Greenworks is we would hire people at the beginning and they never knew what they were really being hired to do. And they didn't know what the job looked like.
Yeah.
So you're honestly just gambling at that point, right? We're rolling dice when we make a hire before. Now, what we've learned is that if we can put you in the experience of the job before you ever do the job. I don't care that you don't really know all of the exact things, but if you're going to be in operations, okay, here's this list of here's the questions, here's things that are coming in, or here's what the ops team is working on. What would you do? How you solve it?
Yeah.
Go get into ISN and fix this right now. Or can do you know how to use the support, right? Like all of those things that kind of show the speed at which the demand of too, like, cause that's another thing too. Like, well, certain people want things solved quickly. Certain people, you can take your time. Is the speed of this company going to be a good fit? So we're trying to simulate and create the experience as much as humanly possible. And so that way we can get them to say no. Because I want them to say no. I want them to go, no, don't like this. I do not like having to do 2.5 stops a day. Or I don't like these 2 stops. I don't like how big that house was. And I don't like the fact that house was going to be a pier and beam in the afternoon. I'm tired. I don't want to do those kind of houses. I don't care. Any reason to get them to say no is what we're wanting. Because at that point, if they can go through what is going to be the job and go, yeah, I really like this. I actually see where I fit here. Right. I can see it. If they see where they fit in the role, that's when we have the best hires.
Yeah, that ride along that's really good. We've been doing that too a little bit. And we've had people like opt out. Yeah. In the middle of it. They're like, this isn't what I thought it was. It's like, awesome. Yeah. We didn't waste everybody's time by hiring you and then having to replace you. And because the most expensive hire is the wrong hire, right? The bad hire that has to be let go, or they a month in, 2 months in, they're like, oh man, I really don't like what I'm doing. They're like, well, shoot, now I got to start over. And that's expensive to hire the wrong person. I love that ride along. Yeah. Cause people get that experience and you get to see them and they get to see what the job is. How many times I've heard the story, maybe you have too, but people will like go to college or get a degree in a certain field and then they graduate and they go actually start doing the work. And within 6 months, they're like, I really don't like this. Like, and I spent all this time and money to get a degree. And then now I'm doing it. It's not what I thought it was going to be.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And like, how great is it? One day of your life and you get to know, I like this or I don't like this. And it's like, no money really lost, really. It's And yeah, man, that's a great way to do it. I like that a lot.
Right.
Yeah. I like that a lot. That's good. So we talked about a little bit about success. We talked about like zeroing in on the focus, finding alignment with our team. So what about this, right? Like sometimes success can be elusive, right? Like you can be like climbing a mountain, right? You're climbing this mountain and you like to hike. I like to hike. I have a huge mountain right next to my city. And so, but what I know is that when you're climbing the mountain, as you're approaching one peak that you can see from the ground, as you get close to that peak, all of a sudden you can see over it. And now you can see there's another peak ahead of you. And so like when you're hiking, it's like, I'm just gonna go to the top of this hill. And you see, but before you get to the top, you can see there's another hill beyond that hill. And so then you get to that top and you're like, well, no, I'm gonna go to the top of that hill, and then you start to kind of like just in hiking, it's like, okay, I'm gonna down the valley, back up again, and I'm going to the top of that hill. But before you get to the top of that one, you can see that yet there is another peak beyond that. Success can be elusive like that, can it? Like,
absolutely.
what do you do along the way otherwise you feel like you've never arrived. You're never winning. You always feel like you're behind. I do. I feel like I'm behind all the time. So how do you get over that?
I admit I am so with you on that, Matt. I always feel behind.
Yeah, I do too. I always feel behind. I feel like I'm never caught up. Right. And it's because I always see the next like peak and the next thing in front of me. And it's like, and then people are like, wow, you guys are killing it. You're crushing it. And I'm like, am I? I don't feel like it.
Yeah, it doesn't feel like
How do you do it? Do you feel like you're winning sometimes?
Until I read The Gap in the Gain, which is just a hugely valuable book that I recommend anyone read, in just the psychology of winning and understanding that where you are today is the win and how successful you already are just for being where you are. I think that changed my life, because until I read that book, I had really never found any sort of happiness or contentment or satisfaction in my work. I'm being honest. I just didn't, because of exactly what you just described, right? Reaching a peak and then always seeing the next thing to do. Now, although I still have that desire to hit the next summit, right? I can still look at every single day, Matt, and feel completely grateful for the things that I did this day, right? The meetings that I had, the intentionality that I tried to bring into the words and the conversations, right? And my intention, right? Even when I get it wrong, even when I make mistakes, even when I mess up, I'm grateful to myself for my intention to pour into not only myself, my family, my business, my community, my industry. I just kind of stop and make myself feel that and realize that, and I put times in my day, at least 5 minutes, to just pause and say thank you. Self thank you. Thank you, Harmony.
How often do you do that? How often do you do that? You put those times in?
I do it I do. So I'm working up my number. My goal is to get this every day, but I don't do it every day. I only do it 3 days a week. I do it on Mondays, Wednesdays, Fridays, and I always do it at 8 a.m. That's when I do it. And it's just 5 minutes. It's built into my calendar, and I just stop and say, you know what? Here's what I'm grateful. And sometimes I have to make myself say 3 things I'm grateful for, because at the moment I'm not feeling it. So I'm like, okay, I'm grateful that we're licensed. It's like it just depends on my mood.
Yeah, some days
really not
like,
happy
I'm just grateful
right
I woke
now,
up today. Yeah.
Yeah. I made my bed. Like whatever that is.
Well, right. You got to take the win. So I love that. So you intentionally build in moments where you pause for gratitude. That's not super hard to do. Put it in your calendar, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and just focus on that. Like that is, I love that. And you feel like that's made a difference?
It's made such a huge difference. It does, because it allows me to kind of get a perspective again, right? It's like I'm not always trying to get to this next. Well, the next never go away. So when do we stop and appreciate where we are and what we've done, right? And I have to thank even my past self for getting me here. It's like, well, thank you. Like, okay, a year ago, I didn't have these things that I have right now, right? Or these people weren't understanding these things, and they're understanding them now. You name it. So that has been majorly helpful. I honestly wish I would do it more. I'm trying to get to 5 days, then I'll get to 7. It's okay. I'm a big believer in baby steps.
Yep. Yeah. Baby steps to make it right. And consistency, right? Consistent discipline. Right. It's like if you work out for 8 hours on a Monday and you don't work out again for 2 more weeks, you're better off working out 20 minutes a day, 5 days a week. Just your body will actually respond to it differently. And so I heard it said, it's not what you do occasionally, but it's what you do consistently that actually builds something. And it's what are you consistently doing, not doing occasionally? Because I can occasionally be good, like I can occasionally do the right things, but can I consistently do the right things and consistently do the small disciplines? I love that, building that in, that Monday, Wednesday, Friday in your calendar. I'm going to start doing that. And I might start with, awesome. I'm just kidding. I was going to one up you and say I'm going to do it 5 days a week, but I'm not going to promise that. But I'm going to do 4. That's right. I'm going to one up you. Yeah. At Unite, I'm going to ask you, how many days are you doing now? So, but yeah, no. So I love that idea, because then, that gratitude and that gratefulness, it allows you to pause and look back and see how far you've come and some of the stuff you've done. And I struggle with that, like celebrating the wins, because I think I already I hit that milestone. When I hit that mile marker, it was like, okay, this is cool. But that doesn't last very long for me, because I'm already on the next thing. And so I don't know, I got to get better at that, at celebrating the wins and being grateful for how far things have come. I think that'll help, probably lower the angst inside of I'm not always happy or satisfied, because I'm always striving for something. And so, yeah. So I love that entrepreneurship. I love the idea.
Just read the intro. All I ask you, Matt, read the gap in the game. Yeah, read the intro, Gap in the Game. So tell me what you think.
Gap in the Game?
Yep,
Gap in the Game. Do you know who wrote that? Who wrote it? Who's the author?
Dan Sullivan and Benjamin Hardy.
What color is it?
Hardy. It's blue. Okay. Blue cover.
Okay. All right. I'm going to look it up. And maybe I'll even put a link in the show notes, so that if somebody else is listening, they can find a link to it that way. The Gap in the Gain. All right. I'm definitely going to read that book. Yeah. Well, Harmony, it's been fantastic having you on the show. And I'm just so grateful you took some time today to hang out with me and just discuss life and talk about kind of your story and kind of what you're working on, what you're passionate about right now. So, thank you for being on the show today.
Oh, no, thank you so much for having me. This has been fantastic, and I learned a lot from you too, so I appreciate the time. It's been awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Well, until next time, everybody, we'll see you then.
You've been listening to Empire State of Mind for the home inspection industry and beyond. Our passion is to elevate the home inspection industry with mindset, strategy, and tools. We hope you've enjoyed the show. Make sure to like, rate, and review. For more, follow on Instagram at IEB Coaching. And don't forget to hit the website at www.iebcoaching.com. Learn about IEB at no cost and have all your questions answered on our open call once a month on the 3rd week of the month. We hope to see you there, and we'll see you next time on the Empire State of Mind.